I look over and I thought I see a teenager that I'm going to compete against. He's got traps up to the ears, you know, these 26-inch legs. I'm like, holy sheesh, that's a big kid. The power to be the greatest makes you do stuff that you probably don't want to do. And as you and I know, because we're behind the curtain, we talk to a lot of these guys, and a lot of these guys aren't happy having to do what they have to do.
Well, you're part of the industry, right? That's actually very kind of like a macho-driven industry, right? I mean, you're looking at muscles, right? It creates a tough exterior, right? Even something like you, people don't expect it to be more. So maybe it's tougher for, you know, people in the fitness industry in general to actually open up about it.
I think it is behind, I think it is in front of the curtain, but behind the curtain, I got the most sincere, kind-hearted people you will ever meet. One of my people that I talk to is like Ed Cohen, the greatest powerlifter in history. Him and I, when we talk, we just talked about us losing our pup. He lost his pup and I lost my dog, and everything stemmed off of that. And it's too, you know, he's a freaking, he's the GOAT. So he's the most macho guy there is. And it's like, behind the curtain, these guys they got the two levels. We're not this, we're not in the middle. We're either extremists or we're upset down here. And so it's cool to be able to know that we can turn on the switch and be animals, but it's also nice to know that we can come down to the other side and be below that peaceful warrior mentality of, if they're talking smack, you don't need to do anything because you know you can crush them attitude, I guess. So I think with the health and fitness, I think when you're coming up and you're a youngster, that whole ego thing is really played. I'm a guy, I'm strong, I'm tough, I don't cry, I don't do anything, I don't talk about this. So, yeah.
What about, you know, you mentioned regimen that you are, right? Your schedule. I mean, I know you work like 24/7, I get that, but do you ever have a leisure time where you just go out to like, just have a cheat meal and like maybe have some alcohol or something like that? Like people want to know about that.
Yeah, no. You know what I mean? I started too young. I can't comprehend alcohol. Never had it. Never, no. Because remember, again, 8, 9 years old. So I never went that route. And I also, because I grew up with dyslexia, the one big thing about reading and writing is that it's the imbalance. So I had to watch and listen. And I had to watch and listen to a better cue than the next person. Because I knew I wasn't going to be able to read the stuff. I couldn't spell it out for you. So I had to pay attention, and that transferred to everything. So I watched all 9 brothers and sisters lift, do martial arts, but drink, take steroids, do all these things. What was the benefit of all this stuff? What was the downside of all this stuff? I watched it from that young age, and so it was one of those things that I go, okay, this is not good. The drinking, it didn't do anything for them, and it allowed me to catch my older brother. Because we'd lift, we'd eat, we'd train, but then he'd go party, and I would stay to the plan. And so it just over time, I just never picked it up. And then you get out of junior high school and college, and you never drank. For me, there was no picking it up at that point. I was already with Weeder.
Sure, right?
Yes, I got lucky in that sense. Here's the one thing, because people ask me, and you're right. I think these are the little things that people need to. They ask, they go, hey, what do you do when all your buddies are pressuring you to drink? Don't drink. It's as simple, for me, it's as simple as that. We're not in high school no more. It's not one of those things where you're out to dinner and they're like, hey, let's make sure we have ice cream and cookies and all this stuff. It's like, no, I'm just gonna have my steak and salad, I'm good.
So you mentioned your brothers took steroids. Witnessed that?
Sisters too.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh no, they. My sister won Miss Washington, Miss Seattle, took 4th of North American. My brother won Mr. Washington. Powerlifting. Our whole family did it. So, because my mom was a martial artist, my dad did bodybuilding and football. We all were athletes, and we all did it. The only difference was they were older than me, and so I got to watch the benefits. And so I got to watch. And as a boy, you always want to beat your older brother. Well, I had 4 older brothers. I had 4 older brothers that all bodybuilded, played football, wrestled, and martial art. And so I'm trying to kick all their asses in time. And so I was watching what they did that worked and what they did that didn't work. And so it was a...
You saw side effects you didn't like?
Yeah, I did. I was getting ready for Teenage Washington. Teenage Nationals. It was 1987. It was in the lineup was Gerard Dente in the heavyweights with me. Chris Cormier was the...
Gerard from MHB?
Yeah. Chris Cormier was a light heavyweight. Other guys were there too. Aaron Eckenrode, these young kids that were the names of the industry. And so I was getting ready for this, and it was the first time they had Teenage Nationals in Washington. So I'm getting ready, and it's about 2 weeks out. So everybody's telling me, you're not going to win this show. You can't compete against these kids. These kids are, whatever. They're doing stuff. And I'm like, whatever. I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to compete. Now, to set the story up, it's the visual thing. If you're around yourself every day, you don't see yourself change much. Or your significant other change much. So I'm living at home, obviously, and I got my sister there, who was this long, blonde-haired bodybuilder, very sleek physique that won Miss Seattle, Miss Washington. So the problem was that I would see these people every single day. And one day, she cut that long blonde hair and dyed it black and short. Now I'm in the gym. It's about a week out from the show. I look over and I thought I see a teenager that I'm going to compete against. He's got traps up to the ears, these 26-inch legs. I'm like, holy sheesh, that's a big kid. Turns it around and it's my sister. I didn't even realize, looking at this, the transformation she made by getting on it. So we can all agree steroids are an amazing thing, but we can all agree that it changes you dramatically. And so without me even seeing this or the day-to-day thing, that shocked me till today. The transformation from this beautiful girl, blonde, long hair, almost like visual twin, and to this champion bodybuilder, but at the same time, it just changed her completely. And so I was like, that's extreme. And so by watching that, or watching my older brother get better than me, and then me close the gap. He gets better than me, then gets off it. And I keep closing the gap. I'm the tortoise, moving real slow. But each jump he does, I'm closing in. Because on steroids, you know as well as I do, you gain, you can't keep. It loses. Then you go back, and then you go back. And so the slow ride for me seemed like it was the smartest thing for me. And so watching them, alcohol, drugs, anything like that, I stayed regimen.
It's been maybe it's just because it's being reported, but it seems like there's been a lot of deaths in bodybuilding.
Wow.
2020, even this year, guys died like in their 50s, late 40s. I don't want to mention any names, you know what I mean? But,
one of them was just a couple of them were my friends and stuff. So yeah,
do you think obviously it's different things, but do you think, if you think bodybuilders, should be healthy side up, even though it's an extreme sport, I get that, but do you think it's anything to do with a lifestyle at all, or is it just a coincidence?
I think it's a harsh reality. The ultimate goal for all of us is to be as healthy as we possibly can. That's the ultimate goal. But the other side of the desire to be the greatest, it's pretty powerful. And so a lot of these guys, the power to be the greatest makes you do stuff that you probably don't want to do. And as you and I know, because we're behind the curtain, we talk to a lot of these guys, and a lot of these guys aren't happy having to do what they have to do. But to be the greatest, you kind of have to go down that road for a lot of people. And so, yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's a lot of abuse, and I think anything like that is, to that extreme, it's risky. But again, I'm not one to judge anything. Whatever you want to do, that's the funny thing. Somebody commented the other day and goes, how are you friends with, I forgot who I was with. wasn't Rich, because that was an old one, but it was somebody else that does stuff, chemicals. And they go, how can you be friends with him? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, he does steroids. And you go, you don't. I've never claimed anything about disliking people or saying don't do it. I've never said anything like that. In 40 years, being in the magazine since 1987, there's not one article of me downgrading somebody for doing something. Whatever you want to do is great with you. It doesn't interfere with my life. I'm not gonna chalk it up to he's better than me because of that. I'll keep competing. I'll keep doing my thing. And so it's.
Yeah, I think people misunderstand you sometimes. You never preach anything to anyone. I've never heard you in an interview say that this is the way to go. You always just talk about your personal choice. And never, you know what I mean? Like I think people just. I think in today's world, social media, just everybody wants to hear what they want to hear.
Yeah. You know how many articles?
Not everyone, just something.
So, 1987's first article, still have articles today, 2021. You know how many articles were talked about being natural? One. It's not me that talks about it. It's society. Just because I got drug tested my whole career and I did all that, they talk about it. It's like, I don't know. It's a personal choice. I'll hang out with anybody. Everybody knows that Rich talked about it all the time. One of my dearest friends in the world. It's like, what, you're not going to hang out with somebody because they have some beers on the weekend? Of course you are. That doesn't change you, man. Don't be an idiot. But again, you're right. I think you're 100% right. They want to believe what they want to believe, or they want to read one sentence. My social media team's here, and they'll put out a video, and people will just grab on to what they want to hear about the video. It's like I talk about cardiovascular is a secondary thing, because cardiovascular is not as good for the heart as weight-bearing weightlifting. Weightlifting is incredibly great for the heart. And if you're on a good nutrition plan, you don't have to do hours of cardio. And so I talked about that. I said, save cardio for, like, if you're getting ready for a show. Save cardio if you need to get in shape. But don't get your body so absorbed to doing a half an hour a day all year long, because then you're just beating your body down. Now, this isn't an argument. This isn't somebody who can debate me on. This is just a fact. What you don't want to do is train every single day. The ultimate goal here would be to train 3 days a week and have a healthy body and eat right, correct? Because if you train every day, you're breaking down your body. Your body can only take so much. But now people will grab that and go, Mike said no cardio. Say, you know what? You want to go do cardio? Go do cardio. Come back in 5 years when you're softer, skinnier, fatter, and you got bad knees and elbows and shoulders. It's like they take what they want to take and then they run with it, which is a scary thing. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When I first came up in the 80s, not a lot of information, because there wasn't social media, you know? There wasn't internet, you know? So I learned from the guys I was around, which was lucky enough to be the greatest powerlifters in the world. But with that being said, it seems as though people really tried to understand and dissect what weightlifting was like. And then in the 80s and 90s, we were pretty healthy. Society was healthy. They were making movies about staying alive and being health and fitness and yoga and jazzercise and all that. Why was so much more information today? Is society getting dumber about health and fitness instead of smarter? Or do you think they're not? On a majority?
I don't know, Mike. I think there's just, honestly, it's just a lot of information. And sometimes it's about, filtering information. You know what I mean? I think people sometimes there are filtering information. So whether you see a video on YouTube on how to train properly, there's thousands of videos on how to train properly. And they have to decide who to listen to. Yeah. At the end of the day, what's credibility?
But it seems as though, like we said, is anybody can be a social media star without doing any work in the trenches, which is scary because those are also the guys that are giving the information. And so it's one of those things. It's like I wish people would realize it's much simpler than what they think it is. They think it's this trick, oh no, you know something I don't know. That's why you've been able to stay in shape for your whole life. It's like, I mean, like I just did a talk with Victor Martinez, and he says, first thing I'm going to say is throw out the idea that there's a magic pill or some kind of trick. It's just consistency of doing the best you can.